Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of In Association with Frankly Sports Pigskin Thursday. That's right, it's Pigskin Thursday. We get to give you all the information, all the previews, and we will be previewing as well. We will be previewing the game between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and your very own the Carolina Panthers. I apologize why I'm trying to do some stuff online here and copy a little bit. So I do apologize about that as I do get my stuff ready here. So stay with me for 1 minute. And we'll see if the people, I'm supposed to have a couple of individuals helping me. But all right, there we go. It looks like I'm already back in action, so we'll go ahead and we'll start, and hopefully I'll have people sharing this to the timeline like they're supposed to. But thank you for coming to Pigskin Thursday here on Frankly Speaking Sports. Oh, baby, what a night do we have for you tonight. Not only do we got special guests, not only are we going to break down the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Carolina Panthers, but we're going to also give you our picks on the entire week. Last week, Larry was 9-7, 56% correct, picking with the line. So very, very good night to you all. Hope you're all doing very well, getting fired up for another great week 2 of football. If you look on the bottom of the screen, you'll see all the point spreads with the teams that are favored and the teams that are underdogs. Please enjoy that. I want to welcome everybody who is on the Crew Live platform that is watching right now. Eric, we want to welcome you, my buddy, from Gainesville, Florida. And for 1 minute, I am looking at this. That way, if somebody comes on here and makes a comment, I will know exactly who made those comments. So bear with me for 1 second. All right, there we go. So, let's go ahead and get right into it. We're going to have 2 very special guests for you tonight. We're going to have Desmond Johnson. He's a radio host and a podcaster and talks a lot about the Carolina Panthers. He'll be joining us in about 20 minutes. That's right, 20 minutes. He's going to break down the Carolina Panthers for you so that all you Buccaneer fans can get fired up about this game on Sunday. Then at about 9:45 p.m., oh my gosh, do we have a segment you do not want to miss. My good buddy and Crew Life friend, JT Buck Dad Powers, is going to talk about fantasy football. All you fantasy football fans, oh my goodness, when you talk about fantasies, this guy's a fantasy. And I'll tell you what, especially when it comes to picking the right people, which ones to sit and which ones to play. So we'll have him on at about 9:45. So you definitely want to go ahead and make sure that you could go ahead. Hello, everyone out there. If you are on Facebook and you leave a comment, just say, "This is so-and-so. Hi, Larry," because Facebook tends, if you're on Facebook and you're not on the Crew Live platform, it's just going to say, "Hi, Larry." So if you can say, "This is Rob, hi, Larry," so that way I can at least recognize you on the show. I would love if you could do that. And we're going to talk right now. Let's get right into it. I talked yesterday on the platform about Mike Evans and how I'm not a big Mike Evans fan, because I think he's lackadaisical. Me and Bucknuts, and if you missed the show last night with Bucknuts, what a show. But I wasn't really pleased with Mike Evans' effort. I don't think he gives 100% effort all the time. And we talked about this last night. And I just, was really upset. But I'm going to tell you something. Michael Evans is going to have to step up this week because there's a good chance that Godwin could miss 2 or 3 games coming up because of this concussion protocol. He got hurt the other day, and this is also another opportunity for Scotty Miller to come through. I think you're going to see a huge game from Scotty Miller. Scotty Miller had 4 or 5 catches. Looks like he's going to be one of the favorite targets for Tom Brady. And speaking about the all-time All-American type quarterback, you expect him to have a very, very big week this week. Very rare that Tom Brady has 2 bad games in a row. We're getting a late report in, and this is some good news. Our head reporter from Crew Life is reporting that it could be as early as tomorrow. Buck Dad Bowers is saying that Godwin could be cleared to play. So this is some late breaking news. We will find out tomorrow, but that'll be good news. But Mike still needs to have a big game. And, when Tom Brady, everybody is spazzing out about Tom Brady. What's wrong with Tom Brady? He didn't look good. Why the heck did we get him from, Patriots? I knew that, this was going to be a bad idea. He's too old. He's this. It's one game. And you're all going to be back on the bandwagon after this week, after Tom Brady has an unbelievable game. First game, guys, you got to take it easy on this guy. And I really knocked Bruce Arians because what a low piece of what he is to call out the star quarterback in front of everyone. Very rarely, it's just a wrong thing to do. If you want to call a player out like we talked about yesterday in the locker room, face to face, that's fine. But when you do it in media, that's really terrible, because when you look at this previous game, which we will not go over again, there was so many coaching mistakes that I could, definitely go ahead and talk about in this game. And I just think it was just classless by Bruce Arians to go ahead and call out Tom Brady like he did. And that's just my opinion. Now, another thing we're going to have to do is versus Carolina is we're going to have to establish the run. Now, this is a very young defense and not a very good defense in Carolina. They do have Shaq Thomas, Jeremy Shinn, Derek Brown, both of those two who had just played their first game. This is something they're going to have to open up the running game. And, everybody last week was on Donovan Smith. Donovan Smith, is becoming the new Jameis Winston. He is the scapegoat of this team. So every time something goes wrong, it's on Donovan Smith. Now, you are not wrong, folks. You are not 100% wrong. He did give up 2 sacks last game, but he did not play as bad as everybody is making it out. He made a couple of mistakes, which is going to happen. He's going to learn from it. This offensive line, the one thing is they did do a pretty good job, except for those 2 sacks. Guarding and protecting Tom Brady. So Donovan Smith will be fine. Stop worrying about it. I just had to ask a question. Will Tom Brady be fine? Tom Brady will be fine. Donovan Smith will be fine. You'll see. It's one game, and every time Tom Brady has lost the opening game, he has come back to win the Super Bowl. Did you know that? Came back to win the Super Bowl. So cut the crap, Tampa fans. He's going to have a great game. Stop being these fair weather fans where you love your team when they win and you hate them when they lose. Okay? You have to love your team all the time, in good and bad. It's like a marriage, okay? You take the good times with the bad times. And, he will be fine. He will be fine. Now, I will tell you the main guy that we're going to need to stop, and, thank goodness we got the best pass rush in the NFL, is going to be Christian McCaffrey, the all-purpose back for the Carolina Panthers. I think he had 97 yards last week on 23 touches for an average of 4.2 yards and 2 touchdowns. So Christian McCaffrey is not just an unbelievable runner, after he gets the ball. He's also a very, very good dominant receiver out of the backfield. The good thing is last year, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers rushing defense did a great job handling him and containing him, and they're going to have to do the same thing again. Now, Carolina does have Robbie Anderson, came over from the New York Jets, had an outstanding debut with Carolina, having 6 catches, 114 yards, and a touchdown. But, we'll have to see. Let's see some of these comments that are coming up right now. But here's a comment. There was a point during the field goal, Black. If Wirfs would have been a split second sooner, he would have been blocking 3 players on his own. Absolutely right. On that play, with that blocked field goal last game, the pursuit of the New Orleans line was just incredible. They just barreled over the entire special teams line for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And when you go to kick a 54-yard field goal, you got to start the trajectory a little bit lower, and that's what happened. Let's see another one. If we could go ahead and see, let's see. All right. I don't know. He had an easy block assignment. I've seen Donovan do this for years now. Drew said it's himself. Waste of money. We need to let him go. Well, the only problem, whoever the Facebook user is, because once again, I can't see your name, but the only problem with that is this. You don't have anybody else that is better. All you fans out there keep talking about getting rid of Donovan Smith. We need somebody else. You know what? Donovan Smith may not be the number 1 guy on our offensive line. But when you look at who else we got, there is nobody else available that is better than Donovan Smith. So we need to get off this kick that, Donovan Smith is not the answer. Well, I got news for you, folks. A lot of people, are giving Donovan Smith crap because some of his off-season remarks, he didn't know if he wanted to play there, doubting his, ability to want to play. But at the end of the day, Donovan Smith is it. You work with Donovan Smith, you make him better, or you deal with it because we have no other choice. He needs the fans to be in his corner right now. And as fans, we're going to have to support this guy because we definitely need this guy. So, that answers that question with Donovan Smith. But, Brady should have a field day versus this defense. It's a very young, not very good defense. And you're going to see, I would not be surprised. And once again, I'm saying it 3 times, so I'm serious. I would not be surprised if Tampa Bay comes out and scores 40 points in this game. I honestly believe that. So, you got to do that. Another one wants to know, what do we do if Brady gets blindsided? There's always a chance that your quarterback can get blindsided. Obviously Blaine Gabbert is our backup, guys. You know what? He's had a better chance of getting blindsided if you put one of the backups that we have right now in. They do not have anybody ready to take that position. You're just going to have to face it. We can argue this all night and say Donovan Smith is not the greatest lineman in the world. We know that, but he is what the cards have dealt us. And in order for us to be successful, we don't need to beat the crap out of this guy. We need to encourage this guy because in order to win, just like you fans are saying in a little bit different way, you're going to need Donovan Smith to do his job and his part to protect Tom Brady. If Wirfs played left tackle and Smith played right tackle, it'd be playing to the both sides. No. Guys, I think a lot of people think if you know how to play a left tackle that you automatically can play right tackle. But anybody that has ever played football, that has ever played line, will tell you it is a completely different game, a completely different trajectory. Everything about it is different. Just because you can block on the right side doesn't mean you can block on the left side. And until you do it, until you watch these guys do it, you realize it is not the same exact thing. The blocks are different. The people coming at you are different. So different tricks that are being played, different stunts that are being played. No. You can't switch these guys. These are where these guys are playing, and they will be fine. You will see. It is one game. It is one game. You played one of the best teams in the NFL who are predicted to go very far this year in the NFL, and you're crying about it. They were a better team on that Sunday, but we get to play them one more time. And the next time we play them, we need to be the better team. Relax. It's game one. It's game one. It's game one. You had a bunch of guys that were used to playing together that didn't have a new system, didn't have a new quarterback, didn't have, all these new players. They will be fine. So, and, for those, my one person saying, I thought they played both sides. No. They may have a little bit, I heard Worst might have played, but he is not comfortable on the other side, and he will tell you that. He is not comfortable. Guys, trust me when I say the offensive line is going to be fine. They just played a very, very good New Orleans team the first game of the season, and, they just weren't, the continuity wasn't there yet. That's all it is. But, anyway, that's my take on that. And I'm trying to read some things. So, anyway, talking about that. We are minutes away now from having Desmond Johnson coming on. Desmond Johnson does do radio podcast, covers the Carolina Panthers. He will be on in a couple of moments to join us. But, the three things that I think, and we talked about that we have to do to be successful is we have to contain Teddy Bridgewater on Sunday. Well, that's going to be a big part of the game. You got to contain him, and you got to have runs for negative yardage, which means you have to have the ability to stop Christian McCaffrey, which I am very confident we do. Remember, last game there was I didn't see a lot of pressure on Drew Brees last game. I mean, you didn't see the Shaq Barrett. You saw Pierre-Paul on one play. As far as that goes, our pass rush has to be a lot better. Now, a question coming up, and a very, very good question, and I knew we were going to, let's see if I can get to it. Do we split time with the running back? I'm going to tell you right now, Ronald, none of our running backs had good games last game. 5 carries, 5 rushes for Fournette. And we talked about this with Bucknuts last night. Matt Bucknuts Algeria came on our show, did a terrific job, and I told them they have to disguise the run better. They're pretty much telling the other team that we are going to run. I think you're going to see Fournette get a lot more carries this game now that he has another week under his belt. The best runner on this team is by far Leonard Fournette. And if you want to win, you have to play your best. And that's not taken away from Ronald Jones. Ronald Jones can be used. But what Arians keeps doing, and I don't understand why, is he keeps pushing those tight ends in, and he creates more defensive players in the box. So now when these guys are running, they got 2 extra defenders inside that box that are able to tackle them, and it does not make sense. So I'm not 100% sure why they don't spread these guys out a little bit more, spread the 4 receivers out, and let the running backs get past that first wave of tacklers, and they would be that much more successful. But to answer your question, they're going to go with the hot hand. Ronald Jones is going to start. They made that very clear already, that he is the starting running back. But if he does not get going, Fournette will be in that game very, very quickly. And look for Leonard Fournette to go off this Sunday, because I really, really feel that he's going to be ready. He wasn't used much. He's feeling great. So I look forward to him having a very good game. I think last week we were talking just now about more pressure on the quarterbacks before that question. But I think you got to understand that I think we only had like 6 pressures on Brees last week. And one of them, I know we had 1 sack, Pierre-Paul. We got to do a lot better. We're a lot better than that. Once again, last week is over. We are a much, much better team than the Carolina Panthers. There's no doubt about it. There's only one person that'll argue that point, maybe, and we're about to bring him on. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great honor, thrill, and most of all, a pleasure to bring into you. He does podcast and he does radio hosting. There's not much this guy doesn't do when it comes to sports, and he does a great job following the Carolina Panthers. Please welcome in Desmond Johnson. Let's go ahead and bring him in. He should be jumping up here on the screen in about 2 seconds. Desmond, how you doing today, my friend?
What's going on, man? How you doing?
Hold on 1 sec. We'll get you. Let me fix the voice here. I know how to do this now. I have ESPN. Give me 1 second here. All right. We do that. And then let me switch it back, and hold on 1 sec, this machine. We will definitely get your voice in a second. There we go. I'm coming up there. Good. And let me just get the microphone going now. There we go.
Good.
Go ahead and say something. Let me see if I can hear you.
Hey, can you hear me? Hey.
Yeah, I hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep, I got you.
All right, there we go. Hey, first of all, I want to thank you very much for coming on tonight. It's definitely a pleasure to have you on, and I know you've been a busy man, but I do appreciate it.
Hey, I appreciate you having me on. Love to talk some football anytime.
Yeah, and, talking about football, very, very tough game for the Carolina Panthers. Obviously, coming to Tampa to play in front of no fans this weekend. I mean, obviously, the Buccaneers did not have their best showing last week, and I know they're looking to take revenge out this week. What type of game are you looking forward to here?
Well, from really ever since the Panthers decided to flip the page and basically start over with pretty much a brand new roster. I mean, It feels like about 70% of this team wasn't here last year. Looking at what we had, we kind of realized, us being fans and talking heads here in the Carolinas, that we were probably going to be in a lot of shootouts most of the year. Offensively, skill players, I'd put them up against anybody in the league. I feel like we've got enough firepower to really go back and forth with anybody. Our defense is super young. I believe we're like the second or third youngest team in all the NFL. I think our average age is like 25, 26 years old. And we've had some injuries in our secondary. So Dante Jackson, our number one cornerback, hurt his ankle early last week. He practiced a little bit this week, but from who I've been talking to, I'm not sure if he's going to go or not. Eli Apple, who we picked up from New Orleans, has not played yet. He's been injured. And that put our 4th-round cornerback selection, Troy Prott Jr. out of Notre Dame, in a starting spot immediately last week. And the Raiders kind of picked on him a little bit as the game went on. But I would expect pretty much the same. We can score with anybody. Our problem right now is stopping people. So if we can continue to do what we were doing last week, a lot of Panther fans kind of walked away from that loss almost like a moral victory over, I mean, based off of what we've gone through the past, couple of years with Cam Newton and injuries and losing streaks and just all of that. Even with the loss last Sunday, I don't think we were as down as we would have been previous years. There was a lot of promise inside of that game.
Now, yes, you lost to the Raiders. I believe it was by 4 points. It was a close game. Let me ask you this. Under a new coach, I believe it's Matt Rule, what is your assessment? I mean, you didn't have a lot of time to really get to know this guy because there was no preseason games. There was no OTAs and all that. What is Matt Rule like as a coach?
Very, very infectious personality. He kind of runs the practices almost at a college atmosphere type level, which we've talked about on our podcast, Believe in Carolina Panthers, on the Believe Podcast Network. You guys can check that out. It's myself and former cornerback Tyrone Poole as my co-host. And we've talked about that a couple of times on the podcast. Would Matt Rule's approach work in the NFL? And we kind of compare it to Pete Carroll when he first came into the league. He kind of came in with the Seahawks and basically implemented college-style practices, mood, and everything with the Seahawks, and they gravitated towards it for the beginning. Legion of Boom and all those guys. It worked for the first, 3-4 years, and then it kind of wore off as those players got older. So Seattle shipped those players away, brought them back in. You're seeing it reset again. I think that's kind of the philosophy here in Carolina. From all accounts, the practices have been more competitive. They're more faster paced. Way more than when Coach Rivera was here. And I love Coach Rivera. Hope he gets well with the medical issues he's going over right now. But yeah, from all accounts, the practices have been different. And that goes back to what I was saying before. The Panthers are one of the youngest teams in the NFL. So right now, kind of looking back in hindsight, some of the moves they made, some of the things that happened make a lot of sense. They didn't really want a team that had a sprinkling of veterans that had been here for 6, 7, 8 years and remembered how they used to do things. It was really more, let's get a bunch of young guys in here, guys that have been here maybe 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, that can still be molded to the way that Coach Rule wants them to be in terms of practicing, players, men, that kind of thing. So really to answer your question, it's kind of a younger approach, kind of a college type style approach. But they seem up for the challenge. None of the older players have really complained about it at all. And if anything, it's probably a drastic change from what they went through last year when they were going through the losing streak from about midway through the year to the end.
Yeah, so let me ask you this, Desmond. And, you get these, we always talk about college players and coming into the league, and it's a much faster game. They have to learn to adapt to it. But wouldn't you think the same thing would be for the coach as well? It's a much faster game. Decisions have to be made much faster. So there's a big learning curve, I would think, for Matt as well.
To a certain degree, but honestly, the NFL has copied so much stuff from the college game over the past decade, really, to the point now where the most infamous offenses in the NFL are really from college, spread type offenses, run zone, read option type things that they have borrowed and made better in the pro game and added their own twist to it. So I'm not really sure so much that it's that jarring for Coach Rule. Now, having said that, his offensive coordinator, of course, Joe Brady, who just came from LSU, spent a little bit of time in New Orleans, and then his defensive coordinator, Phil Snow, who he brought with him from Baylor. There were some times in the beginning of the game last week against the Raiders where there were clear rookie coaching mistakes that happened. And I like the fact that he owned up to it in the post-game presser that, that's on us, that shouldn't have happened. But they revealed, in the first half, the Panthers defense wasn't in the set that was called like 13 different times. which probably aided, some of these Raider wide receivers running unabated down the field. They got it under control in the second half. I liked what I saw. But yeah, I don't think the pace of the game is really it. I know here in the Carolinas, a lot of fans were questioning the final call in the Raider-Panther game. Well, not the final call, but the final offensive call that the Panthers had. They were trying to convert a 4th and 1 deep in the Raiders territory to keep a drive going. And instead of handing off to Christian McCaffrey, who pretty much everyone considers the best running back in the league today, they decided to hand off to our fullback, Alex Armah, and he was stuffed behind the line. Raiders take over on downs, and they end up winning the game. But even with that play, the Raiders penetrated the right-hand side. So when Armah got the handoff, there was already hands on him in the backfield. So he wasn't going to have a shot to get past that yard on that particular play. But again, Coach Rule owned up to that, said that that's something they would, definitely keep in mind and look at, and it would be something that they would remember going forward. And I like their mentality that they're kind of learning as they go. And David Tepper has given him a 7-year contract, so he's got a pretty long leash here to kind of build this team into what they want, which is basically a clone of the Pittsburgh Steelers franchise.
And you earlier talked about this very young defense that Carolina has. Let's talk about this. They're facing probably the best quarterback that has, arguably that has ever played the game. In Tom Brady. Then you look at these weapons. We don't know what's going on with Godwin yet. He's in the concussion protocol. There's a chance he might be out. It all depends. But you still have all these weapons on Tampa Bay. When you look at the tight ends, incredible. You got Brate, you got Howard, you got Gronkowski, you got receivers, you got Godwin, you got Evans, and let's not forget Scotty Miller. I mean, this team is loaded with weapons, playing a very young, very unproven, nicely defense. I mean, this could be I don't want to say that, of course they have learning to do. They're going to take their bumps and bruises, but it could be a very long day if they don't, if they just don't communicate well out there.
I would say being a Panthers fan, one of the quarterbacks that I've hated over my lifetime is Tom Brady to a very high degree. So over time, we've kind of figured out what you're supposed to do to beat Tom Brady. If I'm not mistaken, Cam Newton was undefeated against the Patriots while he was a quarterback of the Carolina Panthers. Typically, the way I describe Tom Brady is this: Brady will hike the ball, and he basically stays in a 4-foot by 4-foot box behind the line of scrimmage, right? He's not going to bootleg to the left. He's not going to go to the right. He'll do that quarterback sneak better than almost anybody that's ever done it to get that first down, but he's not a threat to run. He's going to stay in that box, almost like Peyton Manning. They were similar in that manner where they'll stay there stoic, traditional classic, pick apart the defense and just slice you up. The key to beating Tom Brady is getting him out of that box. So to do that, you have to put on a very, very good 4-man front pass rush on this guy. You can't really blitz him. If you blitz him, he's going to throw for 500 yards like he did in that Super Bowl a couple years ago against the Eagles. If you blitz Brady, he's going to just destroy you. You have to basically get to him with your front four. You got to make him uncomfortable, and you got to get to him within 3 seconds because he's going to get the ball out. He's used to getting it out quick because he wants to stay clean. He doesn't want to. He's not one of these hold the ball, pat the ball 5-6 seconds, and then throw it. He's literally a 1-2-3 throw quarterback, and probably the best to ever do it. Having said that, he can be defeated, as we saw last week. If you harass him, if you get back there like the New Orleans defense did, they caused him to throw 2 interceptions. He lost a fumble, and the Saints win the game going away. If you can make Tom Brady off from his game and start questioning where he's throwing the ball, giving that extra second, then you have a shot. Carolina's defense, though, has to step up. They didn't get any sacks last week against Las Vegas because primarily Derek Carr was getting the ball out in like 2 or 3 seconds. They just couldn't get there fast enough. But I would look for Tampa Bay Buck fans. I would remember the name Brian Burns, who you probably remember, Florida State defensive end, first-round selection last year for us. He was pretty quiet last week, but I would definitely keep an eye on him because they'll probably put some things together to get him back there. And our first round selection this year, Derek Brown out of Auburn. You're not going to see him in the stats a lot, but this dude, let me tell you, Larry, this guy is a man child. Like there was, I was watching game film from the game last week, and he was just disruptive. He will probably cause Tom Brady to have some issues. He's getting double teamed, and he's beside Kawan Short, and they were double teaming him most of the game. And there's one play where Brown basically sheds both guys and stops a run before it can hit the hole. And it all happened bang, bang in like 2-3 seconds. But I've just never seen a grown man throw two other grown men off of him at the same time and then go make the tackle for a loss. So Derek Brown, Brian Burns, if you're Tampa Bay fans, keep an eye on them, because if they're getting off on Sunday, then it might be a long day for Tom Brady.
Right. And, you're absolutely right, Desmond, because one of a very interesting stat, which you may already know this, is that Tom Brady only completes 32% of passes when he is pressured. So, like you said, the key to Tom Brady is to pressure Tom Brady. But, let me ask you this. I mean, you talked about already Derek Brown, but, you had another guy last week that was, to me, and not somebody that gets to watch this guy a lot because I think it was his debut, was Jeremy Shin. Seemed like he had a very, very aggressive game last week.
He did, and we've been high on him all off season, as have the Panthers front office. He's another guy I would keep an eye on. He was a second-round selection. We traded up to go get him. We had him graded as a first-round talent. A lot of other teams did too, out of Southern Illinois. The best comparison I can make to him is Cam Chancellor, literally in terms of how he plays. He's very physical. He had 8 tackles last week against the Raiders. 7 of them were solo. And he's back there playing that strong safety position, kind of just manning this entire defense. And as the front has growing pains, especially the front 4, who are extremely young, they've looked to Chin. He started. He'll start again this Sunday. They've looked at him as one of the young leaders of this Panther defense as they start growing and adding pieces. But yeah, I would expect Tampa to stay away from Jeremy Chin, to be honest, as much as they can. They'll probably pick on Troy Prod Jr. a little bit, just from seeing film from last week. And hopefully Dante Jackson will be able to play. If he can play, then it's a little bit different. They can at least get him on one of these wide receivers you guys have. But if not, I know we've been basically pulling guys off the street at this point, trying to fill in some roles here and there. I wouldn't be surprised if they throw a wide receiver back there to play to play cornerback. We're so thin. But for me, I'm an old school guy, Larry. Stop the run the ball. If you can do those two things effectively, no matter the era, you're going to win a lot of games in the National Football League. And the Panthers have basically subscribed to that, no matter the coach, for the past 27 years. And I still believe it to be true. If the Panthers can run for 100 yards in Tampa and not have any turnovers, and we can limit you guys to under 100 yards rushing, I feel pretty good about Carolina's chances going down to Tampa on Sunday.
And, let's not forget, I think a lot of people forget, the Carolina Panthers have some offensive weapons. First of all, you had Robbie Anderson, who came over from the New York Jets. He had over 100 yards receiving, had a touchdown last week, 6 catches. I mean, is a big playmaker on that team. You got probably and arguably the best all-purpose back in the NFL in Christian McCaffrey. And then you added Teddy Bridgewater, and like you were talking how Tom Brady is a one-dimensional quarterback that has that 4x4 foot box. You got a dual, a quarterback that is an all-purpose quarterback that not only can pass the ball, but he could run the ball too.
Yeah, actually, I didn't. Teddy's not really known for his wheels, but there was a couple of times Sunday where if the play broke down, he wasn't afraid to take off and run with it for 10 or 15 yards and move the chains. I'll tell you this, as a Panther fan and a huge Cam Newton fan at that, last Sunday was the first time probably in about 8 years where I watched the game and watched the Panthers offense and I wasn't skittish. And by that, I mean, normally the beauty of Cam Newton was you didn't know what was going to happen. And primarily he could throw a bomb 60 yards for a touchdown. He could throw an interception. He could fumble the ball on a 20-yard run. He could run it himself for 50 yards for a touch. You didn't know what was going to happen. And that was a gift and a curse because it won us a lot of games, but it also lost us a lot of games too. And it got to the point where the offense kind of felt like they were just throwing stuff at the wall to see what was going to stick. And they were relying on Cam Newton's athleticism to make it work. Whereas last Sunday was the first time really, I just mentioned this earlier today, really since maybe Steve Berline. So you're talking about through Jake Delhomme and then Cam Newton, where the offense didn't seem like they were just on a tightrope every drive, where it was like so much of a struggle to move the ball. And it didn't feel like that on Sunday at all. Like Bridgewater has complete and total control of this offense in terms of how to run it. He knows where to go. Having Christian McCaffrey on the offense last year with Cam for the first 2 games and then Kyle Allen and Will Grier and all these other guys, it's so easy to take advantage of Christian McCaffrey as your check down because he's Christian McCaffrey and he's just sitting there in the flat, open 8 yards out. I mean, it's so easy just to look over and throw it at him and let him go pick up 10 yards. There was probably McCaffrey only got targeted in the pass game 4 times last Sunday, 3 catches for like 36 yards. He ran for about 96, but it felt like he wasn't really involved in the passing game at all, which was really strange because he caught for over 1,000 yards last year and ran for over 1,000 yards last year. And he's one of only 3 people in history to ever do that, Marshall Faulk and Roger Craig. So at the end of the game, I'm yelling at the TV, why aren't y'all throwing the ball at McCaffrey more? He needs more touches. Then come to find out at the end of the game, well, the dude, he touched almost 30 times in the game. So I don't know if they're going to kind of adjust that or if they just want McCaffrey to be more of a running back and out of the passing. But Teddy didn't really even look at him in the checkdown game. He was so focused on where to go. Robbie Anderson is the number 1 receiver on this team. It's supposed to be DJ Moore, but it's really Robbie Anderson. That's Teddy's favorite target. He's going to go there first. And Teddy is accurate. He's more accurate than Cam Newton ever was. He's more accurate than Jake Delhomme ever was. It's so refreshing to see a quarterback that throws at a 65% clip, running, just getting out of bed. Whereas you have another quarterback that has to struggle to get to 60. It's a totally different level of running the offense. And I think that'll be the thing that throws Tampa Bay fans for a loop on Sunday, is just seeing the Panther offense humming. Like they punted twice, on Sunday. They punted twice the whole game. So, I mean, they can move the ball up and down the field, and they've got the weapons to do it. The wide receiver core for the Panthers, if I'm not mistaken, were rated like the 2nd or 3rd collective fastest wide receiving core in the league, only behind like Kansas City. So they've got the wheels to do it. It's just our weakness is the defense is so young. We're not going to be able to stop a whole lot of teams, especially earlier in the year. And that's why I was saying we're going to have a lot of shootouts probably. This game could probably be the same way, about 35-31. One team with the 35, the other with the 31. I really couldn't call which one at this point. But I would expect it to be a high-scoring game, and I would expect it to be a back-and-forth game where there's not a lot of defense being executed.
So let me ask you this, Desmond. Everybody knows, and we're not talking about last week, but last year in general, the Buccaneers were the best defensive team against the rush. And, they had those guys, Sue, Pierre-Paul, Shaq Barrett, who had 19.5 sacks, Pierre-Paul, 8.5 sacks last year. Is this going to be an adjustment? You were talking about how great, obviously DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel, Robbie Anderson are as receivers, but are they going to have to change their game plan here for Teddy to get the ball out a lot quicker versus this, arguably one of the best pass rushes in the NFC, and are we going to start seeing a lot more passes out of the backfield to McCaffrey?
I don't think they're going to they didn't allow a sack last week, which was also new for Panther fans, not getting out of a game without the quarterback getting put on the ground. And a lot of that was because of the reason why the Panthers couldn't get to Derek Carr. Teddy gets the ball out in less than 3 seconds. Like, it's literally – he drops back 3 steps and boom, it's gone. So it's not really so much that you have to rely on. It makes the offensive line look better as by default because of it. So It's not so much that the Panthers really greatly improved the offensive line. They did some things to make it better because we were a dumpster fire at this point, last year, just on the offensive line. But if you have a quarterback that doesn't have to wait 5-6 seconds to throw the ball, sorry, Cam, I love you to death. Hope you do well in New England, but he had to hold the ball because of the way the offense was. It was a lot of play action, 2 targets running downfield on go routes, basically, and Cam's got to wait for them to get open before he can throw it. And nobody can block in the NFL longer than 4 or 5 seconds, if even that. So it caused Cam to get in some trouble, and then that would cause Cam to make some decisions he probably shouldn't have made. Teddy doesn't do that. Teddy, he just doesn't do that. Like, he knows his offense like the back of his hand, and he knows where to go. And I think that was the jarring thing for me, not seeing him check down to McCaffrey because nothing was there. He's taking shots right down the middle of the field. And I would expect the same thing. I think Carolina thinks their offense is good enough to not change it, regardless of what defense they're playing against. They're going to go out and do what they do and be aggressive. That offense you saw at LSU last year, that's literally what I watched on Sunday at Carolina with Christian McCaffrey in the backfield instead of Clyde Edwards-Helaire and, Samuels and Moore and Anderson out there instead of the kids they had there last year for the Tigers.
Now, we got a fan that wanted a question. We're going to post it up there right now. Should be coming up in a minute here. Let's see if we get it up there. If not, I will just read it to you. There we go.
I thought I saw it there.
Yep, there it is. It said, what is and I know you answered part of this already, but they want to know, for the Panthers to win, what is the biggest weakness that you see the Panthers having this upcoming Sunday when they face the Buccaneers?
Defense, stopping the run. For me, it's stopping the run. The secondary is so banged up, and they were so young to begin with. That's a concern. So the Bucs could really take advantage there in terms of attacking the Panthers secondary, which I expect them to do. Having said that, I have felt that Tom Brady's arm strength has been greatly reduced over the past 2-3 seasons or so. Like, really, I think his peak was that second half of that Super Bowl against the Eagles. That was the last time we saw elite Tom Brady. Really, since then, I felt like he's kind of coasted on, well, not coasted, but he's lived off the name Tom Brady. And especially last year, the Patriots had a great defense. So that was primarily why they went 12-4 last year and won the East for like the billionth time. But then you saw them fall apart at the end of the year. They lost to the Dolphins at home, and then they lose in the divisional round of the playoffs. And it wasn't even like close, like to Tennessee. And Brady's throwing an interception, the last pass he has in a Patriots uniform. I don't trust Tom Brady's arm enough. And I've been bitten over the past 20 years saying this too many times, but I don't trust his arm enough to get down the field. Like, I don't think he's going to throw it over my defense. He's going to have to pick them apart. And if the defense can't get back there to him, like we mentioned earlier, then he probably can, because the secondary, once you get past the linebacking core, I'm extremely concerned about the Panthers secondary as it stands going into week 2. But if they can get Brady uncomfortable, then you kind of got a chess match going on. But to answer your fans' question, I would say it's the defense, primarily the secondary, with injuries and depth concerns, and the front four in terms of their youth and just learning how to apply pressure to a quarterback.
Now, before I ask you what you think the outcome of the game will be Sunday, and before we let you go, I want to ask you this question, and this is more of an opinion question, Desmond. You've been around the game. You've seen different coaches, obviously, with the Carolina Panthers. And this week, Tom Brady did not obviously have the best game of his career. I don't think that's any secret to anyone. And he was called out publicly by Bruce Arians. And I've always been the type of guy where, I don't think there's anything wrong with a coach calling somebody out in private or taking them in the office one-on-one. But when you take the GOAT and you completely criticize him in the public, I don't know, it left a bad taste in my mouth.
I mean, I have to assume that Brady wanted that, by continuing to want to play after the Pats let him go. And honestly, we didn't really see Belichick do that to Brady in public, but I can promise you over 20 years he was doing it in the locker room. So that, right. I mean, Brady wasn't just walking around with, gold sandals on and not being able to be yelled at by anybody. But I kind of liked it. I liked the fact that the coach Arians held him accountable, because he was a major part of the reason why the Bucs lost that game last Sunday. You can't have 3 turnovers and be a starting quarterback in the NFL and expect to win a football game against a really good team like the Saints. Like, it just doesn't happen. So, I mean, I thought Arians kind of showed the rest of his team that no one on this team is higher than anyone else. Like, if you make a mistake, I'm going to call you out, that type of thing. Now, that's a different type of story in terms of the coach just calling out anybody on the team or whatever, or throwing them under the bus. I didn't really take it as him throwing Brady under the bus. He just said he has to play better, and he does. I mean, if he plays like that all year, then you guys are going to be like 5-11 and wondering what happened. And he can't play that way. And knowing Tom Brady, he knows he can't play that way. So I expect him to come out scorched earth style on Sunday, and hopefully we can match that intensity.
Let's go ahead and ask you the last.
Well, I think Larry's camera froze on him.
Must be the Halloween look I'm doing here.
What's going on, brother?
All right, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, let's see if we can find. I don't know what's going on with the camera here. It's a Halloween look.
I know. I was gonna ask you what's with the haunted house look.
I tell you what, let me see if we. I can't tell if we lost my good buddy back there. I think we did lose him. I just want to make sure. I don't want to be rude here. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I do apologize about that look that we have. It's the new look, and I'm assuming something happened with the camera here on this new computer that we have. But about that, if you can hear me, we're going to go ahead and we're going to continue. Can you hear me okay?
I hear you perfectly fine, brother.
Well, let's hope. I'm not sure if we. I'm going to try one other thing with this camera, so stay with me, okay?
I'll be right here.
It says Microsoft IR camera. Can I go front, rear? Let me try this one. That one don't work, right?
Nope.
Whoops, hold on a sec. Gonna see a couple of new cameras here. There we go. Look at that. You know, you're talking about this technical stuff, man. Good job. So how you doing tonight, Buck Dad? Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for being.
You know what? I'm gonna make it my job. We're gonna get you a new computer.
You know, this is a new computer. I'm using the new one tonight.
Oh,
but you know, overall, it did a really good job. But you know, it has some kinks in it. And, you know, that's part of learning.
Yeah.
First of all, for all you folks out there, we want to go ahead and personally thank Desmond Johnson for being with us tonight. What great feedback. I know, Buck Dad, you were listening and you got to hear before we get into some of the stuffs. You know, why don't you talk about, you heard the conversation with Desmond Johnson. What was your feedback on that conversation with him?
You know what? To be honest with you, he's saying that, what is it, Robbie? What is his name? Robbie
Anderson?
Robbie Anderson. I have to disagree with him that he's not the answer. It still is a DJ Moore team, but he needs to understand it. It'll always be a Christian McCaffrey team. Yes, they had Cam Newton,
Absolutely.
but it is McCaffrey 100%. Me personally, if it wasn't, they wouldn't have got rid of Olsen. They wouldn't have got rid of guys like Kelvin Benjamin, even though they couldn't give that type of production. It's still DJ Moore's team to an extent out of the receiving group, but player wise, man, it's Christian McCaffrey. Luke Kuechly's gone, Newton's gone. That Carolina is McCaffrey country.
So let me ask you this. I know you do a show, fantasy football, throughout the weekend. And for those of you that did not have the pleasure of seeing his post early this morning on Friday mornings, early 8 a.m. Eastern time, I believe it is, he goes ahead and he does this thing where he writes an article about who to sit and who to play. Why don't you just recap for the fans? Because right after I'm done talking with you, I'm going to do my picks before the show is over, and then we're going to end the show. Why don't you explain to the fans, first of all, if you're going to play somebody this week, who would you suggest to the fans that do fantasy football to play?
For who to start, I'm going to tell you straight up. I'm going to go with Jonathan Taylor out of Indianapolis. Against Minnesota, I'm seeing him as a pickup a lot more. Him and what is it, Matt Brown out of with the Rams. Those two you need to start rostering. They're going to garner you fantasy points. You're going to see them start getting a lot of the workload. In Indy, yes, it is a Marlon Mack team, but with him going down, they're going to look to Taylor to carry that load. Another running back I have is a veteran. I got Adrian Peterson out there with the Lions right now going against Green Bay. With Bo Scarborough being down, this ground game is influential out there. I believe his name is what? Darius, the running back for Detroit, the starter. I don't know his name right offhand, but with Peterson behind him, to me, I got Detroit, overall this week. I have them beating Green Bay on the ground, but I have Green Bay winning the game. Now, if you're looking for quarterbacks, Josh Allen. And this came from I started paying attention to him in my matchup last week. My opponent had him. This kid's gonna put up numbers, and with Tom Brady out of the AFC East, the AFC East is no longer New England's. It's gonna start being a Buffalo deal. You guys need to, whoever plays. If you don't have Josh Allen and he's available, man, pick him up. One of my sleeper picks, though, I have at wide receiver is CeeDee Lamb.
From Dallas.
I do. I see this being a breakout week for him, especially against that Atlanta defense. I don't see them putting a stop to him, but I do see them shutting down, Zeke, and I see them shutting down Amari Cooper. And believe it or not, I see them. It'll be a Gallup and CeeDee Lamb deal. Now the defense, I'm going to tell you right now that you guys need to look at this week is Tampa Bay.
Absolutely, I agree with you.
You talked about it earlier. I've talked about it with a few people off camera behind the scenes. This young defense is going to be something special. Now it is going to be they are a matchup based defense, but this week alone, if they can contain Bridgewater and McCaffrey, this defense is going to be insane. Now the people who are not going to have, and I'm going to say that again.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said, so if you're going to sit someone, who would you tell the fans to sit this week?
Quarterback wise, Teddy Bridgewater. Again, our defense. If you're going to do it quarterback wise or running back wise, I'm going to say Chris Carson against New England. Wide receiver, I'm going to sit Tyreek Hill against the Chargers. Tight end, Gronkowski. And the defense that you don't want to play around with this week is Seattle going against New England because they are going to give up some points. And then the kicker that you do not want to be around right now is Steven Gostkowski.
Absolutely.
That was horrendous.
All right, now, sir, before I let you go, I got 3 players I'm going to put up on the board, and you're going to say sit them or play them, okay? If they're in fantasy, okay? First one. Okay, first one had a real tough week last week, as you know, for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tom Brady threw 2 interceptions. I think he was 23 of 36. Nothing outstanding. What do you do this week?
You're starting him. He does not lose after when he loses opening day. Look at it. We're not even going to talk about the Super Bowl. Look at the second game. He rebounds and he lights defenses up. He gets pissed. And you were talking about the comments that Arians made. Everybody's going a little too far with it, media wise and everything. He called him out. Brady's gonna show up and he's gonna show out. You need to start him.
All right. So that's your first guy. So he says Tom Brady definitely play. Now here's a guy that has the potential to have a bust out week. I think this guy, in my opinion, can rush over 100 yards this week. He plays home, and you know him pretty well. Let's go ahead and put him up there. There he is. There's the guy. Leonard Fournette of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not starting him this week. I'm not against it. I would use him as a flex if you need him. As for the workload, I have him on my team rostered. I benched him this week because this isn't the week for him. You'll see an increased workload, but it's not going to be enough to give you that fantasy production that you want to see. I don't think this is the week that he breaks 100 yards, but I do think the rushing overall through the team between all three backs, yes, there is 100 yards rushing.
All right.
So
now,
hold off on Fournette for another week.
Okay, fair enough. And here's a guy who has not played a lot in the first game, but they are talking possibly about playing a little bit more down in Miami. And that's, of course, all-purpose quarterback. If he ever – there he goes. Tua.
My boy. You know what? Right now, I'd bench him just till you see what's going on. I'm not 100%. I don't know the depth chart. I don't know if he's starting yet. I'm gonna assume not because they're still trying to get him, because he's coming back from the hip injury. If you have him, hold on to him. You are gonna reap the benefits for it, but right now, no.
Okay, so no. So there you go. That was JT Buck Dad Bowers. JT, why don't you tell them about Monday night's show, your fantasy football show? It's on Monday night directly after he piggybacks off my show. So as soon as my show ends, his begins. So why don't you tell the fans that are listening how they can follow you for all the latest fantasy news?
Well, you can catch me every Monday night, like you said, at 10 o'clock on Crew Life, immediately following Frankly Speaking. Again, 10 o'clock, I got the Fantasy Football Hour. Here before long, I'm going to be having a few special guests. Also, we have just launched it, and I have just put out the debut article for it. We do have at crew4life.com, we have a blog. If you go under that blog and you hit that little tab that says fantasy, I'm going to be giving you your stardom and sit-ems for every week. I'm going to be giving you surprise roster waivers who I think you should sign and who I think it might be time to, cut ties with. And also, I'm just going to give you just different fantasy news, different fantasy stories, different from the stuff that you see every day.
Great. Now, we do want to remind you why JT, right before we let him go, that this Sunday, 10:30 a.m. in the morning, one of the best watch parties you can ever be part of is happening on Ohio Avenue in Tampa, Florida, pretty much across from the stadium at What the Buck is throwing a party. Now, listen to this. It's $25. $25. Listen, if you don't Uber, go Uber for an hour. You get the damn $25. It's worth it because you're going to get all the beverages, all the food. And not only that, but you get to have all that in the greatest atmosphere that you can possibly be. Remember, fans, There are no fans in the stands this week at Ray J, but no one said you can't be close to the atmosphere. Join us. $25 a person. They raise money for charities. They do so much good in the community, and it's $10 to park. So we actually recommend that you do carpool. But if you want to watch the game, be in front of a great crowd, and have just one hell of a party at What the Buck, you need to join us. I know Crew Life's going to be there, and I know What the Buck is going to be there, and many, many more people. So once again, it's this Sunday. If you need more information, you can go to the Fantasy Football Hour. You can go to Frankly Speaking Sports, Crew Life. All of us are familiar with that, and we will give you any information that you want. Once again, this Sunday, 10:30 a.m. on Ohio Avenue. Well, JT, we want to thank you very much for joining us tonight and giving your insights on fantasy football. You have a good night.
Thank you for having me, brother. Anytime, man.
Thank you. All right, that was JT Buck Dad Bowers. Now, before we go, I promised everybody that we would go ahead and give you my picks. The show did run a little bit late, but hopefully all of you are enjoying the show. Now, my picks are not necessarily going to be in the order that you see right here. So I am going to give you my picks. Remember, my picks are in and locked by Thursday at noon. Usually it's by Wednesday, but the latest. So any picks that I have already been done before the Thursday night game. But I want to go down, and you can see the point spreads on the bottom. And let's start with Cincinnati at Cleveland. Cleveland is actually favored by 6 points. For those of you that are not used to the point spread, if you are -6, that means you start with -6 points. You need to win by 7 to beat the point spread. Probably the easiest way I could explain it. Last week, I was 9-7 for a 56% average. These are my picks for week 2. Cincinnati at Cleveland. I'm taking Cleveland to cover the points. Jacksonville is at Tennessee. Tennessee is favored by 10 points to win that game. I am taking the Tennessee Titans. Carolina at Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is favored by 8.5 points in this game. I don't think there's any question about it. I think Tampa Bay covers the spread. Then you got Denver at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Actually, the team that I picked in the AFC to go to the Super Bowl. Pittsburgh is favored by 6.5 points. I took Pittsburgh. Then you got the Los Angeles Rams at Philadelphia. Philadelphia is +1. Okay, so Philadelphia is +1. They're the underdog in that. I am taking the Rams. Then you got San Francisco at the New York Jets. The Jets are 7-point underdogs in that game. I am taking San Francisco. Then you got Buffalo at Miami. Big question in that game. Will Tua play? We're going to find out. Right now, JT Buck Dad Bowers wasn't 100% sure that he would see much time, but we'll have to find out and see if he plays. Miami is a 5.5 point underdog in that game. I am picking Miami to upset the Buffalo Bills. That is one of my upset picks of the week. Minnesota at Indiana. At Indianapolis. Indianapolis is -3 points. They're a 3-point favorite. I am taking the Minnesota Vikings. Detroit at Green Bay. Green Bay has a 6-point favorite in that game. I am taking the Green Bay Packers. Atlanta plays at Dallas. It is -5 points is Dallas. So they are a 5-point favorite in this game. I am picking the Dallas Cowboys. Then you got the New York Giants. The New York Giants and Saquon Barkley at the Chicago Bears. Chicago is minus 5.5 points in that game. So Chicago is the underdog in that game. And I am picking the New York Giants. Washington and Arizona. Arizona minus 6.5 points in that game. I am taking Arizona. Then you have Kansas City Chiefs at looks like the Los Angeles Chargers. Kansas City is favored in this game by, it looks like 8.5 points. I am taking the Kansas City Chiefs. Then you got Baltimore Ravens at Houston Texans. Houston is plus 6.5. So they're 6.5 point underdogs. I am taking the Ravens. Then you got the Sunday night game. New England at Seattle. Seattle is minus 4 points in this game, which means Seattle is the favorite in this game. I am taking Seattle over New England. Then Monday night, New Orleans at the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders are 5.5 underdogs in this game. And I am taking the New Orleans Saints in that game. Total points, for those of you that do points, I am picking 45 points in this game. So that is our picks for the week. We were 9-5 last week. So not too bad of a schedule there. Let's see if I have anything else that we need to go over as I go ahead and knock some of this stuff out. So stay with me. When you look at the remainder, we got the 2020 schedule up here. Before we leave you all, I want to let you know, if you look at our schedule, we play Carolina at home. Okay. Then we go to Denver. Then we come back and play, it looks like the Los Angeles Chargers. So, there is no reason here. And I don't want to think ahead, folks, but Carolina's a beatable team. Denver's a beatable team. The Chargers are a beatable team. Chicago Bears are a beatable team. We should not have another difficult game until October 18th when we play the Green Bay Packers at home. So the next home game, and I believe that game will have fans in the stands on October 18th. They have not announced that yet. So there's a look at the schedule for all of you. I wanted to make sure we did get that out as we wait for this beautiful computer to catch up. There we go. I want to get rid of that. Let's get our picks we did. We get rid of that. All right, there we go, folks. It looks like everything was covered. For those of you, as you know, I'm going to tell you real quickly in summary before we leave here that, this is a game this Sunday, which on paper, and remember, you don't play on paper. We found that out last week. You have to go, you have to execute, you got to make, very few, if any, mistakes, and you have to win the turnover battle. We are a much better team than the Carolina Panthers. There's no if, and, or buts about it. So if we come home, we play all the game the way we know how to play. I said it earlier in the show. I don't even think this game will be close. I would not be surprised if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers score 40 points this weekend versus the Carolina Panthers. They should stop McCaffrey. Robbie Anderson is their big playmaker. Well, we just had Carlton Davis show that he can cover Michael Thomas, and I'm not sure who will be on Robbie, but it probably will be Davis as well. So I think we're going to be in good shape, and I wouldn't be surprised if this game ends 40-14, Tampa Bay winning. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you so very much for joining us on Pigskin Thursday, we'll